So, what are we looking for when we're looking for happiness? When we're looking for, when we're looking to feel that sense of satisfaction, whether it's listening to music or eating good food or exercising or anything that just makes you feel content, where you're doing something that you want to be doing in that moment and you wouldn't want to be doing anything else. A lot of times when we're doing something that brings us that feeling, we're doing something that brings us into the present moment for, well, at least a moment. And it does that by involving us consciously so much in what we're doing that we're not noticing a whole bunch of thoughts going through our head for once. And we're not having all these thoughts rushing through that we're attaching to. Because whatever we're doing, whether it's a hobby or just something that gives you that feel good moment, when we're doing something like that, it feels good because it's sucking us into it. It's like if you're sitting in a room and there's a clock on the wall and the clock's ticking, you can, if you're sitting there looking at the clock, listening to it, not doing anything else, you'll hear that clock ticking. But if you're watching a show or maybe reading a book, then you'll get, your attention and your awareness will get sucked into that book or whatever you're doing, that you might not hear the clock ticking anymore. So when we're doing something that makes us happy, it draws our attention in that way, to where we're not noticing unnecessary influence and ongoings around us, including our thoughts. We're looking for that moment of, like, the food thing, for example. When you take a bite of some good food and you just have that moment of like, mmm, just, that's good. And you're not really thinking anything about it. You might not even be thinking that's good or this tastes good or anything like that. You're just experiencing that moment. And what that's doing is taking us out of our thoughts and out of our distractions and filling that space with that, just whatever that satisfaction is from whatever we're doing. But the key is to bring us into that present moment where we're not distracted by things around us or our thoughts. That's what that, at the essence, that's what things that make us happy are doing to make us happy. It's bringing us into a present moment and just letting us experience whatever it is that we're experiencing. It's it's kind of filling that space between, like, when we eat stuff. I keep using that example. It says something about me. But like when we eat stuff, just because, like when we're not hungry and we just want, or we want to eat something that tastes good, or we want to eat something that's not necessarily good for us but tastes good, or we want to eat something when we're not hungry just because it tastes good, and we're looking for that moment of like, we wouldn't be doing that if we had something filling that time, or filling that, basically we're looking for something to fill the space in between. We're looking for a satisfaction to fill the space in between other satisfactions. Like as soon as we give into one satisfaction, we get that shot of, oh yeah, that was, that's what I wanted. We get that quick shot of that, and then as soon as that wears off, we're on to the next satisfaction. And this can be anything. Unfortunately, a lot of times nowadays it's cheap and unproductive, and a lot of times unhealthy satisfactions or addictions. When you look, when you look to fill those spaces too much and you run out of things that give you that shot of feel good, that's when a lot of people get addicted to things, because they find something that allows them easy access to that attention grab. They're looking for easy access to that, something that grabs their attention and takes them off other stuff. Like most people, I would say probably most people can't just sit in a quiet room with nothing distracting them and just be left alone with their mind. Like, they'd probably be uncomfortable and would want to be anywhere else but there. And that's where a lot of people fill those satisfactions with things like watching TV, or even the food thing, or video games, or anything like that. And it's not bad to find satisfaction in that stuff sometimes, but it is bad to get lost in that. And it's bad to keep chasing those satisfactions without realizing what you're actually chasing. Like, you want that shot of feel good. You want that You don't necessarily want that food that you're eating, or want that show that you're watching. You want that happiness and contentment and satisfaction that it gives you. And when you get a good sense for what that thing is that you're actually trying to get out of it, that connection with itness, that that just that connection to the present moment, that connection to the here and now, that connection to just everything you are, that connection to that lowest common denominator that connects everything there is. And once you realize that that's what you're looking for, and it's not the thing that's taking you there that you're looking for, then you can realize that all these different methods are giving you the same thing. And when you realize that you're not looking for an outside feeling. Like, you're not actually looking for the things that are taking you to that place or to that feeling. You're looking for that feeling. And when you realize that you're using outside methods to take you to something inside. And when you realize that you always have that satisfaction in you somewhere, and that you can bring it out in any way you want. It's not specified as much to the method that's taking you there. It's not just 3 things in your life that bring you satisfaction, so those are the only things that bring it to you. You don't have to just find one thing and just keep doing that thing over to fill that space between satisfactions, because you always have that feel goodness in you. And when you realize that, and you get a good sense for that being in you, then you realize how simple it is to get in touch with that and to bring that out through simple things like even just mindfulness. Like, once you get a good sense for mindfulness, that allows you to be in the present moment more. And that feel-good feeling that you're looking for, that's essentially what you are. It's not something you have. It's what you are, and it's just something that gets covered up with conditioning and just all the ways we think about life, and all the ways we think we're supposed to be, and the things we think we're supposed to do in life. Like, all that, we put all these layers on us that make us a person, with all these ideas and experiences, and all those layers cover up that feel-good feeling we're looking for. And we have to look for ways to bring that out of us. But once we actually consciously realize that that's in us and that it's always there, then we realize that we can, instead of trying to collect stuff to bring us that feeling, we can let go of stuff to bring us that feeling. And that's where like meditation and stuff can be really useful, because that's just, it's like passively letting go of all the distractions that keep you away from that feeling, and it takes you beneath all the layers that you put on yourself that cover that up. We were talking before about intervals and stuff, and how it's the space in between things that make, it's the space that's in between things that make the things what they are. Like with music and stuff, and the analogy of playing, or if you hear a song that you like, you don't like it because of any one note, because you wouldn't like a song that was just 5 minutes of one note being played. You like where that note is relative to the other notes, and you like the jump it makes from one note to another note. That's what sounds good to you. It's that interval between the notes that gives it relation to each other that makes it sound good. So in the same way, we can better our lives a lot by paying attention to and doing something creative with that space that's in between our satisfactions. And the less you associate that feeling you want with the method of getting there, the less like cheap satisfactions you have, and the less easy quick ways of finding that you indulge in. And when you take out those satisfactions that you would normally lean towards, you take those away, and it leaves you with more space. And when it leaves you with more space, it leaves you with more of that feeling that you're looking for. It leaves you with more of that, more opportunity to cultivate that feel good feeling and that real satisfaction. It gives you a direct route to that satisfaction, instead of taking a roundabout way through some kind of method. And the more that space that you can open up and not fill with satisfactions that you don't want to fill it with, or that aren't as healthy to fill it with, the more space you have to fill with things that are productive or creative, or that just advance you as a person. And the more that creative space you have, the more good that's done for your just overall well-being and your overall experience in life. And eventually, when you really get a sense for that, or when you really get a sense that that feeling is something that's in you and not something outside of you, or not some kind of method, the more in touch with that you get, the more you're able to just walk around life being satisfied. Because you can just be walking down the street and not be clouding your mind with a bunch of thought, or not be distracting yourself with satisfactions that take you away from that direct path to that feel-good feeling.
So yeah, that satisfying feeling is really, it's not happiness. It's not fulfilling your desires. It's nothing like that. It's simply just a state of mind, and that state of mind is just associated with those feelings of happiness and those moments. You have to think, when everything's going good and you're having a good time, you have this happiness feeling. That state of mind you're in is that connection you have with it, versus when you're going through a bad experience. So this state of mind is that we're looking for. It's not happiness at all. It's not fulfilling our desires. It's simply just a state of mind. And I like to think of it as contentment. And I know a lot of people don't get the same vibes I do off that word. It's just being okay with situations. And it's more of having that acceptance of the situation. And acceptance really goes a long way.
It's not wanting things to be not wanting things to be different than they are. And when you're in a state where you don't need things to be different than they are, then you don't have desires. And if you don't have desires, we all know where that gets you. Free, not suffering, and content.
Yeah.
Back to you.
And you can find, like you were saying before, it's a state of mind we always have access to. This contentment or this acceptance is always there. It's just how we're seeing it in that situation. And it's even if someone close to us dies, of course we're going to feel really sad and down that this happened to this person. But say this person was suffering from a really bad disease and they were in pain all the time, and you were always up in the middle of the night worrying, like, are they going to make it? Are they okay? And then finally, when that death happens, the suffering's gone. You lose the worrying. You don't have to worry about that person anymore. And it's not saying, oh, they're dead and gone. Okay, good riddance. No, it's you're able to get that anxiety off your shoulder, and it's probably a good burden off of theirs, just not having to go through that anymore. So you can look at that situation that way and be content knowing that person's doing all right now. They're not suffering.
You've been stressing over essentially wanting them to be okay.
Yeah.
And wanting them to be in that state of contentment and not suffering.
So this state of mind we're looking for, it's always just perspective based. You can always find it. It's just what angle you have to lean or look at to see it from your point of view that you want to see it. Where can you get acceptance out of the situation? Another big thing is this feeling we're always looking for. It is associated a lot with just being in control of a situation. When things aren't going the way we want them to, we're not happy, we're stressed out, it's just not going how we want it to, and it's that control factor. And it's then becomes all these things happening to you when you feel like you don't have this control, when things are just happening to you. But if you have this acceptance and contentment, state of mind, you have the control. You can see the control in the situation rather than letting the situation throw you around in the roller coaster of life. You're able to actually step back from the situation and see and sort of direct it where you want to go. You're still going with the flow of life, but you're using the flow of life to direct you in the way you want to, such as a sailboat using the wind. Whether it wants to go against the wind or with it, it still uses its sail. It's using the happening to its advantage. And just in the same way we have to in these stressful situations to find this state of mind. It's always there. It's just Where can he find it?